winning in this life thing calls for something beyond your talent. Stop working harder and harder. Performance equals potential minus interference. Others are not visible because they believe in the work will speak for yourself. That's not true. Going to work, doing your job, and getting out is not proactive career management. You are actually doing nothing for your career by just doing your job. Stop being an email address.
Okay.
So I argue that no one promotes an email address. Say no to other things so that you can say yes to the right thing. And employers treat you differently when they know you have choice. It's like
you're saying there are bosses that know this one doesn't have a choice.
When bosses know that this one Shem is not going anywhere.
Welcome to another edition of Mindset Profits, and I have a question for you. I know one of you watched the podcast and said, Nando, please bring someone who's going to talk about us winning in our careers. And the question I will have for you is, where are you right now? In your career, job, business, are you winning? I have the ultimate hookup for you today, a conversation that I have waited, you will not know, but I think I've waited about 8 months to have this conversation with a renowned global speaker who's working with a lot of the top universities in South Africa and is a sought out speaker on organizational behavior. And he is a multiple author of how many books? 4. And an online one. So it's 4.5. He has written 4.5 books. And as fate would have it, yesterday I went to an event. We were having an event and they had a keynote speaker. And when I look at the agenda, lo and behold, it is the man.
It is me. What a coincidence that was, man. It was so good to see you.
And you know what the funniest part of it was for me? You stood out. You had about 20 minutes to speak. And your intro was, I have 20 minutes to speak, but I'm going to unpack a couple of things. But 20 minutes with me feels like 5 minutes. And then I thought, what bravery is this?
What kind of bravery is those things that you can only get away with on stage?
I thought, and 20 minutes felt like 5.
It felt like 5. No, it's an incredible thing. It's amazing. So firstly, we say that just to ease the tension in the room. It's a skill. It's the tricks that we use in the trade. But then it puts you under pressure. And if someone is in the audience who is as thoughtful and as you're wondering, hey dude, are you going to deliver on that promise? So
that's a lot of pressure to load on yourself up front.
Yeah, absolutely.
You are really, really good at what you do.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
It's not surprising that you're one of the biggest speakers in the country. I am curious though, where does the journey start for you? And I know you want to talk to us about the proactive behaviors that help people win in their careers.
Sure.
Because a lot of people are talented, they are smart, they are hardworking, but they keep getting ignored.
Yes.
When opportunities come, promotions come, they get passed over. And you said you want to unpick what's going on there and how we get out of that, right?
Sure.
But how does this journey start for you? Because I'm curious to know how to become Siphiwe Moyo.
The speaking journey comes by accident, actually. I'm in corporate many years ago and in the HR teams in corporate. And what then happens is one of our divisions, I was working for a bank, one of our divisions organized a conference, the HR conference for the whole cluster. So there's like 200, 300 HR people at the conference. It's an amazing conference. And there's a keynote speaker at that conference. At that time, I'm head of learning and development. So I do this facilitation. I know there's a gift there around facilitation because we facilitate full day programs.
Yeah.
This person who comes and they speak for 50 minutes and it's just incredible, right? And after that, I have a bit of a conversation. I discover there are actually people who speak for a living. I really didn't know that. I didn't know there's a conference
like
circuit.
That's the complete career.
Who speak. I'm like, what? So I decided to just check this thing out and find out more. And at that time, I'm quite skeptical because, when you're a facilitator, you believe in behavior change. You know that even in 8 hours, you can't change someone's behavior. So how can this person do this for an hour? But it sparked such a deep interest in me that I started investigating, and I started having an exit plan and say, this is exactly what I want to do for a living.
What did the process look like from living to getting good? Because I'm curious to know how you got this good. Were you always talented?
Yes. So the skill part for me, it comes naturally. I don't want to lie. So I've always known that I can speak because of church. So I grew up in the church, and at church when I was leading youth, once in a while I would preach, but I knew that I was not an amazing preacher. So once in a while, when we have other conversations where we're just supposed to talk about mindsets, talk about careers in particular, I would be good at it. But I just didn't know whether that is something that can be commercialized and so on. But so when I get into the second, I realized that I have a natural gift for it. I then check out Toastmasters, and I realized that I am not the Toastmaster type. So Toastmasters is very, very good in shaping the speaking skill. Some people, they do better after Toastmasters. I realize I'm a little bit informal, and Toastmasters will stifle me. But it just helped me to understand that there are people who do this for a living. I've learned a couple of skills, but most of it's quite natural.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, and what made you focus on organizational behavior and just human behavior?
So this is the stuff that I studied at university. So when you study, the first degree is HR, my second degree is specializing more on the OD part, which is organizational behavior. So this is stuff that I'd always studied at university. When I get into corporate, I do HR and I do mostly the learning part, but the organizational behavior and the OD part was something I've always studied. I get into the circuit, I'm mostly a motivational speaker, and it's great. My first book was called Bulls and Bears Life Lessons from the Financial Markets, which is, I'd been trying to use this as a metaphor to talk about life. And I realized when I'm doing that, some people get it, but most people just don't understand. They think I'm a financial advisor. They come to me, financial advisor. I'm realizing, hey, this positioning is not working very well. So I decided, no, man, let me tap into the stuff that I actually specialize in, repackage it, and make sure that, because there was now a credibility gap, because people look at my background and look at this guy who supposedly speak about finance. There's a credibility gap. So I decided to really focus on the things that I studied, because I also know that human behavior in the workplace fascinates me, because just human behavior fascinates me anyway. I'm a reflective type. I'm a quiet type. I'm not a big extrovert. So because I'm always quiet, I'm really observing human behavior, and I leverage this in my work, which is quite interesting.
I think last question on your background.
Sure.
When you teach with the big university, I heard in the intro yesterday, you work with Gibbs, Wits, and all these other ones. Yeah. What do they call you to teach there?
So I'd been teaching at some of these business schools now probably for 7-8 years. Actually, I do less teaching now than I used to. I mean, there was a time I was literally at business schools every week.
Okay.
And now I'm no longer as busy. But when I teach organizational behavior. I teach leadership. I teach human resources management. At Henley, they love me for what we call fundamentals of management concepts. So just talking about the basics of management. So those type of things, management, change, human behavior
and organizational behavior.
Those are the things that I teach.
So when we had a chat about what to talk about, your passion topic was the behaviors that make people win. The proactive behaviors in the workplace that help people win. But why do you think, before we do a deep dive into what those are, why do you think talented people, smart people are frustrated and ignored?
It's a few things, and one of them is that winning in this life thing calls for something beyond your talent. I think we've seen so many talented people who do not end up maximizing their potential, right? And most of it is either internally and some of it is external. And one of my favorite quotes, I think there's a guy who wrote a book called The Inner Game of Tennis. He's a tennis coach who was coaching tennis players for a very long time, and for a very long time he had focused on the technical aspects of
the tennis part.
Yeah, the tennis part. How is your swing? Whatever those things are in tennis, and I don't know tennis. And after a while, he just decided that no, man, it looks to me that there's something beyond the technical part of tennis that is interfering with some of these people. And he actually came up with a very nice equation, which I absolutely believe in. He says, performance equals potential minus interference.
Hey!
And for me, that was just mind-blowing. So he says, I look at some of the best tennis players, and whether those people end up performing at the highest level or not, I know that it is based on their innate potential minus the interference, because and that interference stuff is a lot. It's your own doubts, it's your own self-belief or lack thereof. Is the things that happens in your head while you are playing the game. And you realize that if I can help people reduce their interference, then these people will maximize their potential, right? And for me, when I heard that, when somebody articulates stuff that you are dealing with as well,
it hits hard.
And it hits so hard because I love a bit of football, I think about some of our most talented people in football in South Africa, let alone in the world. You think of Jabu Mahlangu, you think of Junior Kanye, and you realize the potential was huge. But what interfered with this guy's potential? It's the discipline, maybe. It's their inner game. And so that got me very, very interested in that, because I just think many of us have to ask themselves, even as you're watching this, what are your own beliefs about your potential? Coaches would call them self-limiting beliefs. But you start realizing that our mindsets, our beliefs play a lot of a part in whether we maximize our potential or even just fulfill our potential or not.
So this is the potential, and this is all interference. And depending on how much of it you have, you'll drag yourself backwards.
And how much of it you manage it. And you are even aware of it, because most of the part is just raising the awareness of some of the interferences. I mean, I have my own interferences, but now, because I kind of know them, I'm trying my best to manage them all the time. So if you think about where we were yesterday, for example, the keynote part I was doing, one of my interferences is just that I realized many years ago that I'm not a loudly confident person. So I have this quiet confidence, right? So when I get on stage, I psych myself. So I would literally set myself up and say, this is going to feel like 2 minutes. Like, and then it gets
so that was you psyching
that is me psyching me up. And
now I know
and now all of a sudden I'm like hyped up. There's an expectation because there are speakers who are generally confident. And I'm not one of them. So I need something to, interfere with my interference.
So I guess the question anyone watching should be asking themselves is, you've got this great potential. What's slowing you down?
Absolutely.
What's your interference?
Absolutely.
Awareness becomes key there. If someone looks at their career and says, I am just sitting and waiting to get promoted and it's not happening. The term you gave to the behaviors, you said proactive behaviors. Why call it proactive behaviors than just behaviors that help you win in your...
This is interesting because there's an interesting tension there. So the people who study these things called proactive career behaviors, and it's about initiative. It's about raising your hand. It's about knowing how to play the game. That the game of career management is not a passive game. It's something that you actually have to own and say, I have a career strategy and I'm proactively doing something. So going to work, doing your job, and getting out is not proactive career management. You are actually doing nothing for your career by just doing your job, right? There is nothing you are doing. You are just working. And many people are so sweet.
I work hard.
I'm
loyal.
I must just be known for my work. That's not how this thing works. There are people who have a proper career management strategy that includes initiative and so on. And maybe there's two schools of thought that can help us with it. One of them is that many people had always studied this thing called proactivity, that you need to raise your hand, initiative, and so on. But one of my favorite studies that came in 2024, and I just can't remember the author now, said proactivity also is dependent on the context, right? And it says, in certain leadership contexts and certain organizations, proactivity can ruin you.
Okay.
But in some contexts, proactivity is rewarded. So depending on how much the leader themselves values proactivity. So if you imagine a 2x2 kind of context, on the horizontal axis, it's what you call your own individual proactivity, and on the vertical axis you have a leader or the system acceptance to this, right? And so if we start on the bottom left, you have both lows. There's low acceptance and there is low proactivity from your side. You are stagnant, you are dying, you feel like there's nothing happening to me. And that's true, because you are working in a system where nobody actually wants you to be proactive. You are not proactive. You are stifled. You should be looking for a job right now. Right, and then when you go on that immediate right, so you have high proactivity now on your side, but there is very low the system doesn't really want your proactivity. We know exactly what we want. We know exactly the strategy. These are the leaders who say we don't pay you to think. Every time you come up with an idea, they're like, dude, just do what we said. What's your problem?
And there are leaders like that.
There are leaders like that, and you can get frustrated with it, or you can understand the system. And the biggest thing about this is just understanding the system that you're in, and say, in some of those systems, proactivity is actually punished because this is my business. How dare do you come in my business and tell me how to run my business? So
implement new ideas that I don't understand.
No, just do what I'm saying. And so if you understand that, you either dial your productivity up, down, or you plan to use it elsewhere, right? The best one is when it is allowed, it is encouraged, and you also have it. Those people value proactivity. In fact, they end up giving you a platform to self-determine. They give you a place and you say, just dance. Here are your guardrails, just dance. And when you have that, you have to lean in and you have to make sure that you go in hard. So as much as I've always thought about be proactive, show initiative, and so on, now, because of that study, the main thing is understand your own internal stuff and how much you have that proactivity. Understand what is going on with your team, because in your team as well, you have to have what we call situational awareness in your team. How does your leader operate? How do your colleagues view your proactivity? Is it viewed as if you want to be better? Is it viewed as if you are trying to be the arrogant and so on? So have that situational awareness, but also have the organizational awareness on, is proactivity rewarded here or punished? So you start realizing that career management is about being proactive now in managing your own career, and say, I'm not going to sit, I'm going to use my proactive career behaviors for my own career. And that also includes the idea that, and I said two lenses, maybe let me drop this one and we'll have a conversation. The other one is, everyone who succeeds in life has two aspects to it. The one is your own effort, your own skills. The other is social capital. Okay. And the idea that some people, unfortunately, work so hard in their career to a point where they build relationships with no one, right? And if you are low on social capital, on relationships, what you end up doing is people cannot ignore your skill. So you do get some work, but you always get like the crumbs. You always
the leftovers.
The leftovers. You are called at the end of the project to just deliver. You are not in rooms where these things are decided. You always get, you will be fine, but you'll be exhausted because you're always working, right? And then there are people who have relationships, but they don't have the skill. Those people are going to be fine to an extent that those people who they have relationships with are still in charge. So that's also not a foolproof strategy. You can be one CEO, one minister away from being broke.
Just the change of policy, government, and you are broke.
You are broke because you did not back that with skill. So I argue that relationships can open the door, but it takes skill to stay inside. The best proactive career behavior strategy for me is to be high on social capital and high on skill. Because when you are like that, one mistake that CEO leaves, people always know that whatever happens, Siphiwe is not going to be only known as the CEO's guy. Yes, they might have been closed with the CEO, but we know he delivers as well. That's a sustainable type of strategy.
I feel like I'm in a university masterclass, bro. Let me take you back to the first lens.
Sure.
The 4.
Sure.
You missed 1. You
Yes.
spoke about 3. Is there situations where the organization values productivity, but you are not? Because I
Yes.
think that's the box that you didn't talk to.
Yes. There is. There is. Sorry, I disturbed you.
Yeah.
You wanted to.
No. That's
No, there is, and that's where now you are literally in trouble. Now you are probably one innovation away from being redundant. You are literally staying at the place where people are actively trying to decide whether you are at least fine there or they should even exit you, right?
because you're not fitting.
Because
this
you are
culture.
not fitting the structure. So you're always waiting to be told. And if you have a leader who values productivity, that means that leader is always thinking about, he is way ahead. He's probably thinking 5-10 years from now because he's thinking there and he's trying to operate at that level. And when you are trying to operate at that level, you need people in your team to be proactive and do and deliver what they need to deliver. And if you're not coming to the party, you might just be surprised why you're not getting the promotion you want, why you're not in the work streams that really matter in the organization, why it seems like they might prefer somebody else other than you. Just reflect on your own productivity and decide. If you hear certain clues, man, in the meeting, and the leader says, guys, for me, as long as I've told you the vision, I'm expecting that you go to your department and you think about how you can operationalize that. If you hear those hints in meetings and you can tell that this leader really means it, you might have to dial up your own productivity.
So these are leaders that like good surprises.
They do. And the main reason is that they have so much in their plates and they really believe in leaving you alone to do your job. And those are the people who really want your own productivity to just get on with it. You can see sometimes their leadership even feels like they're laissez-faire. In other words, it feels like they just leave you alone. But it's because they think, as long as I've given you the strategy, I've clarified decision-making powers and guardrails and whatever, what else do you want from me? And if you have those types of people, you need to propose stuff, you need to dance, you need to be calling them and say, I have 4 things that I want to do. Can I test it with you over coffee? Because you can tell the environment calls for it.
Love it. What would you say are the top 5? Because now I want to look at a couple of people, and mainly people who say, I heard you.
Yes.
This has landed.
Yes.
I want to fix my career.
Sure.
I want to advance.
Yes.
And not be ignored.
Yes,
right? I want to be the one that gets selected.
Sure.
How do I fix it? What are the top 5? What would you say are your top 5 proactive behaviors that can help someone advance?
Okay.
I know you've been listing quite a number along the way.
Yes. The first one is visibility, but guarded visibility. So visibility is an interesting concept in corporate because the people who figured out that one of the main reasons, one of the things that help us with career progression is visibility, and that's true.
Yeah.
And some people really play that game very well. So, but others are not visible because they believe in the work will speak for yourself. That's not true. So visibility that is strategic is visibility that when your management team is doing, I don't know, maybe release the financial statements. There's no, and they say it's optional. That thing is not optional. That thing is not optional, bro. Go sit in the front row, check out, read those financial statements if they've sent you in advance. Ask a beautiful question in that meeting around, I see it means that our strategy is moving this way. What are the skills we need in that strategy? That type of visibility is very, very important. A visibility that kind of like adds value because that thing matter. The second one is
before you get to the second one, I'm thinking of someone who asks, how do I become visible and not sound or look arrogant?
Yes,
because that is possible.
It is possible, and that's why for me I tried to use the word guarded, because what you want to try and do, so the arrogant type of visibility, you go into that meeting. Even when you're asking a question, for example, it has a lot of prefaces. You talk for 4 minutes before you ask your question. That does not work for you, because leaders are now they're looking for this stuff. So you think you're trying to impress, but you are not, right? And the clever one is just to ask an incisive question and shut up. It's just knowing enough, you know what I mean? Get into those meetings, ask a good question, get into some of the beautiful work streams that we have in the business. So for example, if we say we are looking at increasing our investment income and we're looking for volunteers to just investigate, those are the type of visibility you want, to be in the best work streams that are working in the right programs. That's very, very important.
Beautiful. Let's go to number 2.
The second one is the understanding where not to play. It's almost like saying no sometimes. So this is interesting, right?
Yeah.
So if you are not strategic in your or proactive in the things that you say, you end up being involved in a lot of things. So sometimes I see someone who is involved in the social committee, the culture committee. You are just known as the vibes person now at work. So everyone now calls you for vibes, and you think that's good, but that's not good for you. You want to make sure that you say no to some things. Maybe you have the personality, but no, at some point you must just say no, and don't allow people to box you into things that are frivolous. You're not an entertainment person. You are there to work. So say no to other things so that you can say yes to the right things, if that makes sense.
It does. No, thank you. Let's go to the next one.
The third one I think I would suggest is what we call the language that has weight. Mm-hmm. So this proactive care behavior is interesting. So
is this what you were saying yesterday with NQF level? You must speak in a way that when we hear, we understand there's NQF levels.
There's NQF levels in this one. No, it's not. But every organization has what I call the language that has weight. So think about it. If you work in the bank, and I've worked in the bank, there is a subtle language called bankanese that no one says it. Bankers speak the same. If you listen to anyone at senior management at the bank, they speak the same. They're always like, if you look at our NIR and our NIR, if you look at, there's gestures that are only used in your sector, and you have to speak it, not may. Senior managers are funny, man. They're always, the cues that they look for are not as substantive as we think. They are very subjective, and most of it is to look at cues around, is this person knowing the language that we speak here? So it's very important just to speak. I mean, when I was working at the bank, I was in HR, and I realized that very, very early, and I decided I'm going to be a certified international retail banker, and I went and studied banking so that I speak like bankers. And you see the credibility after you speak like them is incredible. And so sometimes your proposals are rejected, not because there's substantive stuff. It's just because you don't speak. If you work for a bank, speak like a banker. If you work for a retailer, speak like a retailer. I mean, I see it when I work with retailers. For example, in my speaking journey, and there's one that I do a lot of road shows with. I even dress like them. They give me their shirt because retailers are simple. They give you a shirt. It's worn down. You're wearing jeans and techies. Even the way they walk, they don't walk like bankers. Bankers always have a swag. Retailers are in a hurry, even if they are not hurried anywhere. So you study people in your industry, and you have to look at how do the most senior people in the room look, sound, walk like, and you have to emulate that.
Okay, we are down to 3. This is a powerful one. This is going to be life-changing for someone. Please do reflect on where you are on any of these. Check yourself as he goes and does the breakdown. What would be number 4?
Reduce job embeddedness. So this one is interesting for me. Is you don't only have to be proactive at work, you have to be proactive at managing your own career, right? So job embeddedness is a term that is studied in organizational behavior that is aimed at looking at whether your skills, abilities, and network are concentrated in one organization or not. And so many people, unfortunately, they stay so long in one organization to a point that you can actually only flourish here. Even your networks are only here. And the biggest problem with that is that if, for example, for some reason, this one organization were to close, were to lose business, you actually have no networks at all. All of your networks are concentrated in one place. So this is interesting. As much as you want to make sure that you embed yourself in your organization, but you actually must reduce your embeddedness. You must network outside of your industry. You must join professional bodies within your industry so that you are known within the industry. And you have to make sure that even people who work in your organization, they kind of know that this one has some other relationship somewhere. This one can go anytime. He just chooses to be here. And employers treat you differently when they know you have choice. It's like...
You're saying there are bosses that know this one doesn't have a choice.
When bosses know that this one, Shem, is not going anywhere, they treat there's a lack of respect. So it's an interesting dance because you have to kind of assure them that you are not going anywhere, but it's not because you have no options. It's because you want to be here. It's like in a relationship, man. I mean, if you're dating someone and this person keeps telling you, I can't live without you. Even if you are fair, man, you're also like, you're not taking them as seriously. So it's an interesting strategy. Please, even if it's going well in your organization, make sure that you can network outside of your organization as well.
This is powerful, man. Yeah. The last one?
Which one shall I choose? Maybe influence. That many people, unfortunately, when we go to business school or even at school, no one teach you about the art of influence and persuasion. Persuasion and influence is one of the biggest indicators of whether someone is going to succeed or not. And the nice thing for me is that the study of influence and persuasion has finally come to a point where it accommodates different personalities. So when it started, there was a guy, Dale Carnegie, who wrote a book about how to win over people or influence people or something like that. And you could tell that book was written by an extrovert. It's just like everything was,
how to win friends and influence people.
How to win friends and influence people. Yeah. You could tell it was written by an extrovert because that guy, his suggestion suggests that you just love people, you wine and dine them, and you know how to smoosh people. But some of us, you don't have the tongue, the smooth tongue, But at the same time, you have to learn how to influence people. And that's why the ones that help me, there's a lady Susan Cain, who wrote a book called Quiet, How to Influence When You Have a Quiet Personality. It is so beautiful because you then learn that, I'm not going to be one of those people who you get into a room and everybody's listening to you. In fact, one of your guests who's going to come, I know, Dr. Billy Slikane, is one of those people who owns the room. When we're with him, we're listening to him. That's fine. That's how he is. But for me, I know how to influence within the confines of my of my personality. Quietly, I'm a listener. So, for example, when I meet clients, I listen to them, and there's something about looking people in the eye and giving them space to be listened to, that when they leave, the level of oxytocin in their bodies is high, they feel so good and they want to work with you. So what is your influence strategy? And think about that, because it matters at work. It's not only about what we do, but it's about how to get results. And getting results means you have to study influence. You have to study how to get yes all the time.
I think I want to ask you about this now. I'm looking at a time in future where we come and talk about this influence thing, and you unpack it a little bit more.
Sure.
What I want to ask as we wrap up is, what should people who are stuck, like they are talented, they believe they are really good at their job, they work hard, what should they stop doing that's slowing them down now? Are there things... Yeah, what are they doing? We have seen what they're not doing, which is the proactive behavior.
Yes.
But are they a lot of the things that they're doing that they should stop doing?
So maybe I will use one of the techniques we use in facilitation, which is so useful for me. It's the stop, start, and continue.
Yeah,
really love that framework. So firstly, what should you stop? Stop working harder and harder, right? Because if you realize that you are burning the midnight oil and it's not giving you results, you have to realize that you have to do something a little bit more than just working hard. And so firstly, stop working hard. Secondly, stop being an email address.
Okay.
So I argue that no one promotes an email address, right? So the fact that people at work, sometimes they just know you at Siphiwe. No, that's not going to happen. Just get out of your desk, walk the floor a little bit, raise your hand, talk to people. Because some of these things are going to happen because you are talking to people. Maybe thirdly, you also have to just stop having a short-sighted way of thinking about work and relationships. I think for me, and I was thinking about this, that work and organizational life is a long game. That sometimes if you are a selfish person and you are thinking you are just using any of your relationships to take, that's not going to be beneficial for you over the long run. So think about it as a long game. If you play a bit of cricket, this is not a T20. Invest in the relationships. It's a test cricket. And get out of there and improve your social skills.
So this is knowing that this journey and just building relationships takes time.
Yes.
You just start now and you play the long game.
Play the long game. There is something annoying about someone who networks from a point of scarcity.
Okay.
You can tell that this person is networking from a place of scarcity. They seem so desperate to get. And that thing annoys people so much because you seem so desperate. It's as if you don't have food today. And so you repel people who would have been absolutely amazing over the long run. So chill, have a long-term strategy. Don't network from a point of scarcity. Network from a place of abundance. And what am I doing? How can I help you? What are you interested in? What are you trying to do? How can I help you? And at some point, if you are helping enough people are dying to help you as well at some point. And when you ask, they realize that this person has been pouring in us so much, and it's about time we do something. So maybe those would be in the stop category. Start doing the things from
the
this
stuff we talked about.
And maybe continue to deliver, because performance still matters, right? And I remember, man, there was this former chairman of Microsoft who says when they look at progression for them, they think of an acronym called PI. And I hope I remember all of them, because P is performance. You still need to perform.
Yeah.
So continue performing. I is the influence that we spoke about, and then E is the exposure. So look at that and make sure that you have the pie. But I think most of us, unfortunately, we're big on P and we don't think about influence and exposure.
This is powerful. Unpack the statement as we close. No one is coming to save your career. No one is coming to build your career.
That is so cool, man. That is something that I believe in. That actually, if you think about it, your boss does not really care too much about your progression. They care about performance. So no one is going to do it for you. The organization would like you to an extent that you are performing, right? And so for me, don't only work in an organization, work on your career. And there's a difference. It's very different. Working in an organization and working on your career is very, very different. So have maybe allocate a day a month or an hour a week, even if it's a Saturday, and says, this is the time when I'm working on my career. Because if you are not doing it intentionally, you get into this habit of going to work, coming back, going to work, coming back. You are not actually taking time on working on your career. And the stuff that we spoke about today, that's what career management actually is. You are actively trying to manage your career. And many of us, unfortunately, never take time to do that.
Thank you so much, Prosper. Yo, you are a walking masterclass, bro.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate it.
I'm going to keep this intentionally short and give you a challenge. If you love somebody in your life who has a need to grow in their career, share this video with them. And if you have questions, because we're going to call him back to unpack influence in future. If you have more questions coming off this interview, pop them in the description, in the questions, comments, so that we take them back to the men. But otherwise, yo, thank you.
Thanks for having me, man. This is a super cool podcast.
Thank you so much. See you in the next episode.